Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. I'm at Sardi's with one of Broadway's favorite leading men, who is the latest man behind the mask in the longest running show in Broadway history, the musical phenomenon known as the Phantom of the Opera. Please welcome James Barbour. First off, welcome back to Broadway.
Thanks.
How does it feel?
It's incredible. I mean, it's home. I spent the majority of my career here, even though I moved to Los Angeles and I started producing and doing all this stuff. It really is home. And the funny thing when I reflect, my first starring role was Billy Bigelow in Carousel. And in the chorus of that show was Brian Darcy James, who's right down the street, was Taye Diggs, who's around the corner. And so when you see that and you get to come back, I did one of Kristen Chenoweth's first shows when she came in. She sent me a wonderful note, when I came in. It's that sense of community and that sense of family that never goes away, because you're forced in many ways to create a family very quickly with people, because you're rehearsing in a very tight-knit group for 6 weeks, and then you're thrust together 24/7 to do these shows, and these bonds are just unbreakable. So it's like coming home.
Yeah, you are phenomenal.
Thanks.
As the Phantom. Is it surreal taking on that role?
Yeah, it is. It's, Norm Lewis said something. I went up to see him in the dressing room, and he had these ice packs on his knees. I'm like, what's going on? He goes, dude, I'm telling you, it's the most physically challenging thing you've ever done. I'm like, come on. And then I ran into Howard. He's like, Howard McGillen. And then I ran into Hugh. He's like, and it is. It's unbelievably physically demanding.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't think it, but it is very surreal, because it's the iconic thing. And Norm said, look, all of the shows that I've done, the Tony nomination he's got for Porgy and Bess, he can say, well, I've worked with this person, I've worked with that person, and then, oh, really? Yeah, I was the Phantom. You were the Phantom? It's the same thing. I've worked with Stephen Sondheim, I've got these nominations, I've got this. You're the Phantom? It's worldwide.
Yeah.
So it's an honor. It's a challenge, because you're having to step into something that has been 27 years on Broadway plus. It is surreal, and at the same time, it's a dream.
Yeah. The audience, we were there last night, packed to the third balcony. Standing ovation. What is it like for you when you take your bow at the end?
It's incredible. My college mentor, his name is Richard Mason. He passed away. He was Marilyn Monroe's escort when she did the USO through the wars, and so we had these amazing pictures. But he once said to us, he said, what audacity do you have to stand on a stage in front of 2,000, 1,500 people and ask them to pay money to come and see you? And it sort of struck me. I'm like, God, yeah, it's kind of egotistical to do what we're doing. And I realized that we have a responsibility to the audience. And the curtain calls for me are thank you for sitting there for 2.5 or 2+ hours and letting us move you, entertain you, maybe make you think in a different way. So really, that's what it is. And it's just a thanks for the opportunity, for the honor, and for the ability to do this. We're blessed to be able to do what we're doing. It's amazing. So it's incredible.
When you saw yourself the first time in the mirror with the Phantom makeup on and the costume, what do you remember thinking?
I need a chin. It was like, because John Cudilla had these cheekbones, and Norm's got, Hugh is this gorgeous, and Howard. I'm like, I need a chin. It's pretty incredible, because Howard texted me, and they call it donning the mask, and he was down doing Gigi at the Kennedy Center, and he's like, so you're donning the mask? He goes, let me know if you need anything. It's kind of cool.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool.
What do you remember about the first performance on stage as the Phantom? That first night you went on?
I wasn't nervous. First time in my life, and I think there's such a support system in this group, from Cameron and Andrew and Hal on down, for everybody in this show. It is a family, and so the rehearsal process is so thorough and so clean and so supportive and so creative that all I wanted to make sure that I was doing was to properly carry on that legacy.
Yeah.
But I wasn't nervous. I was excited.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Over the years, I've asked many Phantoms what the biggest challenges have been for them, either with the material or the staging.
Yeah.
Were there challenges for you?
Yeah, of course. We talked about this a little bit. Because it's been around for so long, and because it's iconic, Michael Crawford created this role some 20, when did London, 28, 29 years ago, right? So there is a format within which you have to stay. And there's that old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So I describe, when I do master classes or talk to young actors, I talk about, you know, the novel, the play Oedipus, where he was destined to reach his fate no matter what he did, no matter what choices he made within his life, he would ultimately get to that fate. So when you look at the structure of a play, you have a box within which you can work. You have the dialogue, the script, the direction. You can make choices within that, but ultimately you have to hit these marks to get to the end result. So what's the freedom within that structure? And so the challenges are, music of the night is very specific. There is no diminuendo. There's no nighttime sharpens, although you hear recordings of it all the time. It's nighttime sharpens. And the minute you start to go night, there's a note. And the music is written specifically for that. And David Caddick and, you know, David Lyon, Kristen Blodgett, who are musical directors, very specific on why the music has to be that way. We spoke about the final layer, which is the Phantom's final scene. To me, that's the meat. That's where I got to play and become the Phantom that I am becoming or learning to become. So those are challenges. Also, Norm and I are baritones, and it's really a tenor role. So my voice is now sitting really, really high. And it's fun that way. That's a fun challenge. How do you make your voice work at that level on a consistent basis?
Sure.
So like that.
You know, the layer scene, we were sitting there last night watching you, and it was like a throwback to a young Christopher Lee. Your stature is so perfect, the way you carry yourself, and the acting scenes are so brilliant.
Thanks. You know, Hal Prince talked about the Phantom being this child. And, you know, in the first scene when he crawls to her, which is a fascinating scene, Hal's image is that his body just stops working. And everything is taken out of him so that he can only move his arms. He's just been devastated by her pulling the mask off. And when he reaches for her and she pulls away and he says, "Oh, Christine," it's "Oh, Christine," and he wants it pitched high because it's that child. So that final layer scene is that petulant young boy. And I look at that monkey at the very end that's the only, and maybe I'm giving my little thing to, you know, for who the Phantom is. You know, when he was cast away as a child, he was pushed, okay, here, have this. And that monkey has been with him since he can remember. And when he goes to, you know, hide your face so the world will never find you, that's what he was told. Hide your face so the world can't see you. Go away. And it's that living of that pain and that emotion that he constantly goes through.
Masquerade, paper faces on parade. Masquerade, hide your face so the world will never find.
And the fascinating thing is that even though he's a very dark and evil character, I mean, he kills people, there's a sense of empathy that you want the audience to have. Much like, you know, in Assassins, when I did Assassins, you talk about somebody who can fit into a mold but chooses Dennis O'Hare. Every night I would watch his performance in Assassins and it would be different every night, but on the mark. Yet we were playing these horrible people, but you had empathy for them. And I think you need that because you want that unrequited love feeling. You want that pull between Christine and the Phantom. So I love that final scene. It's my favorite in the show.
Because there were nuances that I saw last night that I have not seen in the longest time. It was like really seeing the show through fresh eyes last night.
Nice.
And this iconic score. What's it like singing his music?
It's unbelievable. You know, I produced this thing for Broadway Cares over at Birdland, which is Phantom Sings the music of Andrew Lloyd Webber. And we're sitting there going, okay, what do we sing? Well, what's this? And there's this. You just have, it's such a huge canon of work that it's all famous. You know, it's like, it's all famous. So when you have music of the night and you're sitting there and everybody has sung this song, you know, from Michael Crawford all the way through to Ramin and you know, and Howard and Hugh and, I mean, everybody has sung it. You want to make it your own, but still make it worthy, or you know, your performance be worthy of what the music is. It's incredible. And a friend of mine came, she's on a TV series, Jennifer Aspin, she's on a TV series in LA, a couple TV series. She goes, I forgot that it's an opera. It's sung through. And it's not just Les Mis sung through, it is, we're singing massive ranges. It's a treat, and it is challenging and exhausting at the same time.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful.
Other fandoms that I spoke to, one of the biggest challenges for them was the Masquerade scene of going down the stairs when you can't see.
I know.
Was that hard?
And in heels.
Yeah, in heels.
I was like,
those big shoes.
I know. I was asking all my drag queen friends, I'm like, how do you do the shoes? With big feet and shoes, how do you do it? It's trepidatious, because you have the mask and you only have these little holes to see, and you have to look forward. I can't look down. And you can sort of see down through the mask, but if I look down, then I'm not looking where I'm supposed to be looking. So what I do is I actually take my heels and I hit them against the riser of the next step and go down. Now now I'm just doing it. There are a couple times I'm like, whoa, 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 because the costume's big. I feel like Petruchio in that thing, But I'm like, whoa, go ahead, here we go. I'm good. But it's a challenge, and the angel is a challenge too. I'm like probably the tallest fan.
Sure.
I think John Codilla might have been almost my height, but you're standing up in that angel, and the knee braces come just above my knees, and I'm, whoa, you're high up.
Sure.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Where did your love for performing begin, and what were your early creative outlets?
It's a great question. I went to private school when I first was going to school, and it wasn't in our neighborhood. It was a friend's school. It's a Quaker school. And so we moved to public school after that. We hadn't moved. We were in the same house, but we just moved schools. We went to a public school system. But nobody knew my sister and I. Nobody knew us, and I was in the 4th grade. So I had to, during those early times, because my friends didn't live in my neighborhood, create. And I would go out into the woods in my backyard and pretend that I was all these different things. And when I got into public school and started doing performance, I was like, wow, this is a creative outlet. I always wanted to be an architect or an archaeologist or, an astronaut. And as a performer, you can become all of those things and learn about them, even just for a short time. So my sister had always danced and sang, and my mother would drag me to all of her lessons because my father worked during the week and was not really home. And so by default, I watched my sister sing and watched her dance, and I just sort of started taking it on. And then I got to high school and did some performances and I actually studied Shakespeare. My background was classical theater. I went to college on Long Island at House University, and they reconstructed the Globe Theater on the stage. So I did classical theater and then went on to study in London for a bit. But my influences were Olivier and Gielgud and, like Tim Roth and Gary Oldman. Those are the guys that I just, Gary Oldman and Tim Roth later, but those are the guys that I ate up. And so those are my influences early on.
So what was the defining moment? Do you remember when you said, I think I want to be a performer and try to make a living at this?
Yeah, I think it was, I was in college studying it, and I don't even know if I have a specific moment, but I remember after I saw Les Miserables, and I took Paige Davis. You know Paige Davis?
Yeah, sure.
Who's actually coming to the show tonight. We were both in college. She was at SMU and I was at Hofstra, and we went to see Les Mis, and I went, that was powerful. And there was an emotional, a visceral response I had to that show. Now, I had already done Summer Stock. I had actually done The Mystery of Edwin Drood, which Howard had done. And then I met him when I did the Secret Garden tour, and I'm going, oh my God, it's Howard McGillen. And I was like, hey, Howard, he's a friend, So I think it might have been that moment, seeing those impactful shows. No, I'm incorrect. It was the movie of Oliver. That's what happened. And it's funny because I just remember it now. I remember seeing Oliver and seeing, Fagin and his portrayal of that character, and that was it. So if I can make a correction, that would be it, because that was early on.
Sure.
That was it.
You had this incredible career. So let's talk about some of your shows, and just tell me what comes to mind, a quick story or a memory.
Yeah.
Let's start with your Broadway debut, which is Cyrano the Musical.
Cyrano the Musical. Yeah, it was pretty incredible. Joop van den Ende produced it, and outside group coming into Broadway, and it was my first experience from people who weren't part of the clan coming in. And I will never forget, the set were 2 aircraft carrier elevators that turned into stairs. And during one of the previews, it broke and it started to tip. And I'll never forget, Robin Skye, who was in the show, started to slide down, and it went straight down, and somebody grabbed her by her wig, pulled her up, and Joop van de Ende, the producer of the show, ran onto the stage with the crew and started pushing the set with the crew. And it gave me a new understanding of what commitment was. That man really cared for us, and it taught me something great about the life and the family of theater.
Sure.
His lesson.
Carousel, Billy Bigelow.
Audra McDonald. It was Audra's first role. We had done the Secret Garden tour together.
Yeah.
It was, Douglas Sills, Audra, myself, Roger Bart on the Secret Garden tour. But my first starring role, I walk up. It was horrible. I mean, it's great and it was horrible. The first time I was on, I was standing by before I took over, and I walked up the stairs at the end. And the curtain comes in, and I'm going, oh my God, I just starred as Billy Bigelow. I sang, the soliloquy on Broadway, and all of my friends are here. The curtain starts to go up, and I'm moving down for a curtain call, and there was nobody there. And I'm like, how do I get down? So I stepped in the dark, and I missed the step, and I dropped 10 feet, and I broke my right foot, and was out of the show for 6 weeks. I had my big break at Lincoln Center Theater.
Disney's Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast, wow. Incredible, incredible. Disney was amazing to me, and they still are. Another iconic role. It prepped me for this because I sat in the makeup chair for an hour.
Perfect.
I'll never forget, there were a few times within the show where some of the illusions didn't work. Some of the makeup would start to come off my face just because it was so sweaty.
Yeah.
With the heat and things. But I think one of my fondest memories is Meshach Taylor, who I did the
in
show
Los
with.
Angeles?
No, we did it here.
Here,
It was
okay.
with Tony Braxton when Tony Braxton did the show, and Meshach played Lumiere. And he passed away last
Yeah.
year. And, meeting people like that and working with them and sharing the stage with them, that to me brings the greatest memories. And he was such an incredible man and such an incredible spirit.
Jane Eyre.
Jane Eyre, John Caird, Paul
Yeah.
Gordon, I remember in my audition, here's John Caird, who co-directed Les Miserables. Nicholas Nickleby, when he was 26, I miss Roger Rees. Such an amazing man. 26 years old, John Caird directs Nicholas Nickleby. And here I have this iconic director, and in my audition, he says, how old are you? And I said, 35, how old are you? And he goes, huh. And he told me his age, I can't remember what it was. He goes, all right, yeah. And working with him on a new piece, because he also, adapted the novel.
Sure.
It was a lesson in not settling, and it was, he called them CBDs, or CDB, could do better. He'd go, Paul, that's a CDB, it could do better. And he goes, now, I don't know why you wouldn't want to cut your worst piece of work, your best piece of work. And that's his way. He would never degrade. He would never say, oh, that was horrible. He would be like, yeah, think about this, and give you an option to do something else. So the chance to work with him and Paul Gordon and Marla Schaffel, and just, that was my first originating a role. That came with its own fears as well, because now here's the paper,
Yeah.
and your picture's in the paper, and this is what we think of you. I was like, oh, okay. Reviews, when reviews come out. And I quickly learned, I was like, well, that's not what, oftentimes reviewers say, this show is this. I'm like, well, that's your opinion of what the show
Sure.
is, because this reviewer says something else, and that person says something else, and the audience says something else. So it's more a lesson in, okay, great, everybody has their own opinion.
Oh, Jane, what would you do if there was something I had done to make them leave me one by one?
I would never lose faith. I would never lose heart. I would stand by your side.
Stephen Sondheim's Assassins.
Oh my gosh, Stephen Sondheim, John Weidman, Joe Mantello, it's, Paul Gimignani. I remember I was doing the gun song, and I was up, and it's difficult music. The cast, Dennis O'Hare, Neil Patrick Harris, Michael Cerveris. That in itself, it was a masterclass. Yeah. Sitting there, watching these guys perform every night. It was unbelievable. But the funny story for me was I messed up the lyrics of the gun song. We were in one of the rehearsals, and Steve was, sitting down, and I walked past and he goes, nice improvement. Steve, but I think I take that away. It was an incredible experience watching those amazing performers and sharing the stage with them one every night.
And then you got to do it again
Yeah.
for the one night benefit at Roundabout,
Yeah,
right?
we did.
We were there that day.
Yeah.
I saw you that afternoon. What was that whole experience like revisiting?
It was incredible. Again, it's like coming home. You've got Neil, who had gone off and done How I Met Your Mother, and was a big star, and then became a huge star, and and Michael Cerveris, who just got the Tony again, but didn't have the Dennis O'Hare. I mean, it was incredible to come home. And Kudish,
Yeah.
I mean, everybody, Mario Cantone, Alex Gimignani, Becky Baker. I mean, it was a dream.
A gun kills many men before it's done. Hundreds, long before you shoot the gun. Men in the mines and in the steel mills, men at machines who died for what? Something to buy, a watch, a shoe, a gun, a thing to make the bosses richer. But a gun claims many men before it's done. Just one more.
A Tale of Two Cities.
A Tale of Two Cities. That was a work of love. I started that in 2004 while I was doing Assassins, and we got on Broadway in 2008. Great story, amazing story, and I just think, look, it was a very difficult time theater-wise. I mean, I think 9 shows closed on one day. We called it Black Sunday. The economy was horrible, and it was a labor of love for the producers as well. Getting that thing up. And something that I will never forget, because I was very involved from, once they said, can you do it? I was like, yeah, and I was involved on a very grassroots level. Actually, a lot of people were, on trying to help make it come true.
Sure.
Yeah,
But I remember your finale, your final moment on that staircase.
yeah.
It was a great show.
It was a great show and a great message about redemption and hope, and and the idea. Look, to me, it's the greatest love story ever told. You have, for those of you who don't know, Tale of Two Cities. It's a man gives up his life so that the woman he loves can be with the man that she loves.
Yeah.
I mean, what greater sacrifice? And for me, it spoke true because, I'm a very spiritual guy. I think this is a temporary shell. Whatever you believe, whatever it is for you is you. But I think that there is something greater out there. Whatever our purpose is, that's the help, that's the thrive. And so when I think about that story and that man who was so self-loathing, coming to this realization through the eyes of someone else, the love that she shared for him and saw worth in him, and said, I'm going to do something better with my life.
Sure.
All I can't recall the taste of wine. Have I been drinking down my days, a crippled wretch content? If I had been that man right now, I can't recall my sense of shame. Was failure always in my heart, or did the many years of waste leave it there? Did I just feel it disappear because you care?
All right, Les Mis, Jean Valjean.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's funny, everybody says, you should be a Javert, you should be a Javert. And then for the tour, they actually asked me to come in for Valjean. And I was like, and I had these other things going, and I was like, I never ended up going in. And then Tom McCoy and Kathy Rigby in California called, and they said, because they produced the Camelot tour with Michael Lang, and said, we're doing Les Mis, do you want to come in and meet on Jean Valjean? I was like, really? And Hugh Jackman had just done the film, and I'm tall, Hugh's tall, and I'm like, all right, sure. I went in, and I met with them, and I fell in love with that role.
Yeah.
I have a kinship to that guy, and sorry I get emotional about it. It's such a powerful, powerful, powerful role about redemption, about hope, about being wronged and being righted, and not blaming. What's that line he has to Javert? He goes, I'm a man, you're wrong and always have been wrong, I'm a man just like any other man. And so playing that role and that sense of journey that he does, and what does he do? He helps. Yeah. All he does is help, and goes to his death knowing that he has helped and ultimately has the ultimate redemption and the ultimate life.
You know, you have these terrific solo CDs. You have this great recording career. Your latest is Bring Me Giants.
Bring Me Giants, yeah.
You know, and you also do concerts all around the world.
Yeah.
What gives you the greatest artistic satisfaction with recording and live concerts?
It's funny, I was before you said the last part, I was going to say seeing other performers succeed. That's my greatest artistic satisfaction. It's why I started producing. It's why I started creating things, because there's so much talent out there. And you know, Bronson Norris Murphy, who's one of in our ensemble, he came and he sang. And I'd never heard him sing except in the ensemble. He has the voice from God. And when you hear that and you see people see the reaction, that brings me joy. I think ultimately it's about reaching people. It's about expanding. And you know, it's going back to that, what audacity do you have to stand in front of 1,600 people? That responsibility to say, I want to be able to maybe help you look at life in a different way. If we can affect one person and they can walk out of the theater and they can be changed to think of life in a different way, then we're doing our job. We do have a responsibility as artists. It's not just, I want to make money and I want to, you know, have my own plane and do all this stuff. I think there's a responsibility within our art, at least for me, to be able to affect a positive change in the world. And I think, for me, that's why I produce and that's why I do the concert.
Is there something you know now, either personally or professionally, that you wish you knew when you were starting out your career?
Yeah, of course. I mean, how blissful and honored I am to be able to do this. It's, you talked about walking out and seeing those 1,600 people standing, going, you know, and you're like, wow, that just doesn't seem right. I should be standing there and saying, thank you. And I think that's really what it is. I wish I had known what, I don't know, joy, happiness, there's a weight to what we do. And you see it, you know, when you see Audra perform and you see Brian Darcy James and, you know, Kristen Chenoweth, there's something that comes from within that goes out, and it's that ability to share. So I wish I had known that so that I could do it sooner.
What is the best bit of advice that you've been given, either personally or professionally, that you live by?
Faith Prince, 2001, we were doing some event. I was doing Jane Eyre and she was doing Bells Are Ringing. And she said, you know, just keep walking. You know, because we weren't sure whether Jane Eyre was going to open or close. And she was talking about in reference to something about Bill Clinton, I think. But she said, you just keep walking. Just keep walking. Because when you stop, you stop. If you keep walking, and I use it, I've expanded an analogy, is that, look, at nighttime, you keep walking, eventually it turns to day. You're in a forest, you keep walking, eventually it'll come out of it. So the best advice is just keep going. Just keep going on your path.